And so those are all things that I tell people, short answer.
So I'm going to be a little more specific with the question, I guess, because I think we just do CMA.
Yeah.
But like, what's something that you encourage a seller to do to sell? So let's say if you put a big emphasis on staging, if you put a big emphasis on whatever.
Can you call it? I'm a realtor, and being new to it. I was going to say CMA before, but pricing the house appropriately, and a new thing that I've learned from recent classes is letting people know how long to expect things to be on the market at certain price points.
Realistic expectations.
Yeah, realistic expectations.
Yeah.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
I think I know everyone here too. It really depends because every seller is different what you do with the CMA in regards to how their house is. In regards to, you have to advise them to maybe update it a little bit, or if they have to replace some things to make it more attractive, to have more showings, or to sell it more fast. So I think it's per client different. It really depends on every situation, and that's how you adjust your survey to.
Sure.
That's what I do.
My name is Alex, and I'm going to take a pass on the question.
He's not licensed yet. So
All right, you get a pass this time.
yeah, he
Just
can't
save
talk.
it for later. Save
But
it.
when you get your license and pay your dues, you will be a
Realtor?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
First question.
We didn't even have the Saturn.
Kathy wants to make
People say
sure.
realtor.
Or-
and it's-
Oh,
Right, do
I
you
meant a
have
realtor
realtor?
who chewed me up for saying.
Ah,
So
was it
that's-
Was it Kathy?
No, I'm not sure who it was.
Throw that out there.
I'm
I'm Chelsea. I'm not a realtor. I'm a title professional, so I don't advise people on sales prices. However, I do enjoy fully executed purchase contracts.
Enjoy that?
I very much so. No blanks, please.
Is it my turn?
It is.
I'm Trace, I'm a realtor. As far as me talking to potential sellers and whatnot, I think one of the biggest things, no matter what condition my house is becoming. Whether it's a high-end home that's really nice, or it's just kind of like a condo for someone's first time buyer or whatnot. But clean, I think is the biggest thing, the easiest thing. We go to places that smell like cat litter and there's dust everywhere. It's pretty hard to get people to even look at it, or one where just walk up to the door and just turn back.
Right.
That's what I'm
I agree with him because there's pictures on MLS that have like clutter and things like they're working on it. I'm like, that.
Why don't you wait to put it
Yeah,
on the market? until
right.
you know it?
So I am Sarah Stansberry. I am not a realtor. I'm a loan originator, so I don't have any suggestions or advice on those prices.
Very good.
But I do
Enjoy fully
Yes.
executed purchase
Thank you.
contracts.
I'm Lisa, I'm a realtor. As far as the two listings that I have, I did the market analysis based on that area, which I think maybe might have been wrong, still on market. But I think it might be important to do more recent, like pendings, like Gina says, and or the last 6 months versus 1 year. This
Right.
market's changed so much. So you show them those listings and you show them what sells in days on market, and then you come up with a price.
Sure.
The other thing, I know somebody turned, I just want to throw this out just because of what's going on with you. But it's always good to, like, after a month on the market, to do a new CMA and give them an update on what's actually included.
I told him I was gonna give
Yeah.
one today, actually.
Yeah, that works
Yeah.
out really well because it shows them, like, in the last 30 days, what have people bought and why didn't they buy your house? And you try to figure that out and then you adjust accordingly. So, okay, good idea.
All right, my name is Suzanne and I'm a new realtor. I am still in the student phase right now. I'm studying to do this job. So what I've seen though, is that it is very important to get your home ready to put on the market before you put it in the market. I've seen some surprising things in my 6 to 8 weeks that I've been doing this on tour and such. I'm not sure, it just seems silly, you know, to put something on the market or on tour even that you wouldn't want your mom to see or your grandmother.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and call myself out. Today, the tenant had his shotgun hanging right by the door.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Awesome.
Yes, he did.
Come on, buddy.
Picture your mom coming to the house.
But that was a renter.
And
And that makes a difference.
feedback will be helpful.
Oh, we did this.
We don't
worry.
You sit on your dashboard.
That was kind of intense, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll go through points real quick. Everybody should have a point sheet, except for maybe Cecilia. I'll get you one. Right now, Kathy's team is in the lead.
Woo!
Surprise, surprise. Kathy, Sarah, and Chelsea have been turning in points like crazy. Carl, for the last 2 weeks, has not turned in any.
Isn't he the one that just got engaged?
Yeah,
though? Come on.
he's
cut
been
some
on a
slack.
transatlantic cruise.
Oh.
He should be wearing his name tag every day. You never know. You never know.
Excuse me, sir, can I get some more sheets?
Exactly. Kathy is the big earner there. Team 2 in second place. I mean, this is right in line. Amanda with 200 points is going crazy on her business cards. And then team 3 with Captain Lisa. We're in third
Which
place.
hasn't turned in her points this week.
That's okay. I haven't turned mine in
Dang.
either.
You know?
I'm willing to bet that you had about 60 points in there.
Probably.
So we're coming to an end, right? 9:26.
Yeah.
Is this the last week?
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
What?
So this is the last week.
I have more points to put on
That
there.
means that we're going to go ahead and provide whatever treat for the other two teams.
Marty never turned in any points.
Yeah.
Maybe we should.
Some people come in one day and never come back. So that's the whole game. That's the whole deal. All of these little subjects on here are little steps toward getting you a paycheck, and this is just a little way to hold you accountable. Make sure that you're doing those steps to earn a paycheck. Yeah, and then the last place team every quarter gives, right? Quarter? I think so. I don't think it's 9/12 through 9/26. Oh, that's the week up. 10/2. Okay, we have until 10/2. Yeah. So every quarter, the last place team provides a treat for the other two teams.
What is the treat usually?
We've had mimosas, we've had cookies, we've had full-blown lunches, or just whatever. Ice cream sundaes.
Depends on how bad third place loses.
And
I'll
then
go get Rob's points too.
Yeah.
I'll go talk to him.
so yeah, that's our points update.
My turn?
Yes.
Okay. So all of you should be familiar with this page, jackwhite.com/admin. Right here's how you get to it. Then you put in your email address and your password. If you forgot your password, click forgot password, and they'll email you a new one, and then you can sign in. But where we're going to go is Our World. And you see underneath us is JW Learning Platform. This puts you into our institute. So here's the institute. This is everything about leading RE, which is great. It has the institute here, marketing, branding, events. So events is going to tell you about the Leading RE conference that's going to be happening end of January. the 29th, 30th, 31st, and 1st of February.
Where's it at?
It's in Las Vegas at the Wynn. And I just signed up. It's going to be really fun. It's a great, great conference. They have over 200 speakers. I mean, it's just fabulous. They do a top-notch deal. So it's a lot of fun. And
Did you go last year?
I did not go last year, but I went to the master's program last year. And so that kind of took,
So have you ever been to this?
I have. It's my first time going. But I know a lot of the speakers. I know a couple of speakers already that are going to be there because they were part of my master's program as well.
What was the master's program was?
Master's I went 3 different times to Chicago, and it was for sales managers. And it was focused on different things each time, and we had homework in between. It was a pretty intensive program, but it was I learned a ton. And so the art of introduction, of course, that's where you get to refer people. Or art of introduction is when you sponsor someone to come into the company. But we're going to talk about Institute. So click on Institute.
I'm sorry, that was a leading RE conference?
Mm-hmm. And then
There's 2 places or,
What's that?
on top, okay.
And what's that?
There are just 2 places where it said Institute on here.
So there's new courses for September, and it tells you what they are here. Images for your listing stand out, making social media effective, and then, or you can go under just take a course, library, course information, leader tool, Staver on demand. We're going to just go into take a course just to show you what is available. And then you can take the different courses based on different subjects. So we'll go into sell. The other thing that you can go under is the syllabus. So if this is kind of cool, and I was telling Alex about this, if you go under new agent, it gives you a 6-week program or 8-week program of classes. So the first week you should take all of this, and then you can just download the syllabus right here as a PDF, and then you know where you go in to take your classes. And you can just click on each one to take. There's one for experienced agents as well. And so this is also an 8-week course for experienced real estate realtors as well. So you can just go to the syllabus and do the course, or you can just take the individual courses, based on the, those are my courses that I have. But you can just take the courses based on a different subject. So like sales or marketing and technology or whatever. I figured today we're going to do making social advertising effective. We're going to take that one today. And I'll show you how easy this is. So this is a 5-minute class. So it's super quick. And you'll see that they'll say registered prepaid because the company prepays all that for you. You don't have to pay for these classes.
Any of these classes on there?
Correct. Yeah.
Also, if there's, I thought there's DCVs on there. Can you do those too?
Some of those will count, some of them will not. So ask Teresa about that in general.
Okay.
So then you just click on that and you say open course. And then you just hit next.
Hello, I'm Matthew Ferrara. In this video, we're going to explore some tips for making your social media efforts more effective and some ways to market without having to actually run paid advertising. Plus a few new features that will make your posts more effective. Okay, first let's start with Facebook, the biggest of the social networks. The idea is for those of us with a personal page to be more effective with engagement without having to resort to a business page or advertisements. So how can we increase our engagement with our ordinary personal posts? First, remember who you're talking to. Most of the people you're connected to are your sphere of influence. So they don't always need to be business posts, and you don't have to always remind people that you're in real estate. Ask yourself, what is it that my sphere needs today? Do they need to laugh? Do they need to be inspired? Or do they just need to be recognized by someone like you? Each of these are pretty easy ways to leverage engagement. So if they need to laugh, consider some neutral content, not politics or news, but something that's funny and also worth being shared by them. Don't just make them smile. Let them share your content and make others smile as well. If they need to be inspired, well, focus on something that you or your company has done that's made a positive contribution beyond just another transaction. And if they need to be recognized, why not go beyond a simple like or comment and repost something onto your own timeline with some comments asking your friends to recognize them and congratulate them too. You can tag them to make a point of celebrating their achievement on your page, in essence, becoming a cheerleader for your sphere of influence. Now, what about Twitter? Well, Twitter is a little more complicated, but there are 3 simple strategies for using it more effectively. The first is to become a trusted source of information to someone, and that someone is usually someone in the press. The second is to become an amplifier of information from sources that your followers want to hear from. And finally, the third strategy is to recognize your top connections on a weekly basis and thank them for engaging with you. Let's look at each one of these in turn. First, try to become a trusted source on Twitter. This is a little harder at first, but it can create some great traction with the right audiences. This means first starting to find people who need to know that you have expert knowledge in your profession. And who are these people? Well, typically real estate journalists, analysts, and public figures who are talking about real estate. Now, don't just engage with them to correct them online. Offer them information, data, and insights that are specific to your market and your experience. Engage them in conversations and earn their trust. Now, the second strategy is actually related to this. If they're a good source of information, you can amplify their information to your sphere of influence and catch their attention at the same time. So it could be that you have the same contacts that you're building relationships with, or it could be that there are other sources of information that your audience doesn't yet have time to seek and collect, but you can retweet and re-amplify, not only to provide information to your sphere of influence, but to let others know that you're watching. Finally, you want to use Twitter to engage in more conversations, not just distribution. Don't just retweet links. Get involved, ask questions from your followers, or ask questions from public people that you can create a conversation around and others will notice. Show some interest in their posts. Even use the polling tools to engage and collect data at the same time. Now, what about Pinterest, which is a slightly different network than you might think for social media marketing? Well, we typically think of Pinterest as a place where people post items that they'd like to purchase, or places they want to visit, or even celebrities. But there are lots of ways you can use Pinterest and lots of information sources to actually leverage the medium. Here are some ideas. First of all, think about infographics, right? Pinterest is all about graphics. You can take key market content that you'd otherwise write a blog about or use a chart or a graph and turn it into an infographic using a tool like Canva or Pictochart. These are free tools that allow you to create visual representations of information. Now, keep them simple and keep them focused on a specific message about an action that you want people to take, like entering the market now or making a purchase now. And if you need some good ideas, look at how some people are doing it successfully today, like the Harvard Business Review or Pew Research. They make some wonderful infographics that'll give you an idea of how to construct your own. Then create boards by subject area and reshare images and infographics both to Pinterest and other networks. So that's 3 ways you can use social networks to more effectively increase your engagement and expand your presence. I'm Matthew Ferrara. Good luck.
Pretty simple. Then you have a test. Next. You have to make at least 60% or you're in trouble. Okay, so in this course, Matthew discussed ways to leverage engagement on Facebook, including all of these except laughter, humor, education, inspiration, recognition.
Inspiration.
Education.
I think it's education. Twitter makes it easy to become a trusted source and create traction with the right audience. True or false?
True.
Which free tool did Matthew recommend for creating info on Pinterest?
A and C, so E.
And Picture, yeah.
So it would be E.
E. I wrote it down. I got that one.
Oh, so we missed the second one.
Because it wasn't with the right audience, it was with the right information.
The true or false question.
Yeah.
They always change one word and then it's all over. Gina's like, we're gonna get 100% on this.
Yeah, because we're on her profile.
Yeah.
She can't look down.
Yay! And then you just hit exit course, and then you'll get an email tell you, thanks for taking the course. And then there's always, you can print a certificate if you want to show what you did. And then under resources, they always give you resources on pretty much everything you take the class for. And so then it just kind of lays out everything that you have that you can print and just keep wherever, or whatever. So it's pretty cool and easy to do. There are, let's see, let me see. Let me go into, I think everyone has this as well. Yeah, some in my regular account. This may not be. I think we have talked about this before, but I'll play one of these real quick so you can kind of see what.
Hello and welcome to High Gain Activity. This chapter is absolutely essential to get you on the fast track to success. It's time to expand your mind and start on your journey to infinite growth. People seem to be busier than they have ever been. But is busy really what we're after? Whoops. That produce the highest gain possible. Now, if your life's like mine, and I don't know if it is or not, but I'm guessing it's kind of. There are distractions all the time. You've got meetings to attend, teleconferences to be on, bills to pay, car repairs, blah, blah, blah. The noise distracts you from spending energy on those things that make the biggest impact. So I'm going to take you through an exercise that will help you clearly identify your high gain activity. You can do this exercise over and over again to help you identify high gain activity in your business, high gain activity in your family, in your organization, or whatever. Just pick what you like to focus on. As for this exercise, we're going to talk about business. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start off asking you one very critical question. What is the one activity that if you were able to do it all day, every day, for 5 days, would have the most productive and profitable impact on your area of activity? Now, this isn't a goal like sell more. It's the activity inside of your selling process that has the biggest impact, like following up on your calling task market. So think of that activity and write it down. You can use a piece of paper, you can open up a separate Word document, or you can even use the notes area, which is right over here to my right. Just click on the tab and type it. Don't worry, your notes auto-save, and you can get back to them anytime you're here. You can also get to your notes and even print them out when you visit the My Notes from the main menu. Anyway, go ahead and write down your answers and click continue when you're ready. I'm going to wait here.
Just blinking there. Oh, I guess I'm hit continue.
Yes.
You got him right when he was blinking. Good one.
Okay, great. Now, what is you are currently spending in that activity? If you think about a full week's work, what percentage of your time is currently being spent doing that activity? Write that answer down, and when you're ready, just click.
It gets me every time.
Perfect. The next question is challenging, not because the answer is difficult, but because admitting it is difficult. But it's just being weird. So here is the answer. What percentage of your time do you need to be spending in that activity that you do? What percentage of your time do you need to be spending? Write that down. If you're like most people I work with, you just realize there's a significant gap between the amount of time you're spending and the amount of time you need to be spending. I know there are all kinds of reasons you're not spending that time that you need. So please, let's just park these. What I want you to do is make one incremental shift. You're at 5%. 7%. You're at 7, go to 10. If you're at 12, maybe you jump to 15. I don't know. But committing to a small and incremental increase is critical to this process. Let me share with you the 2 questions you need to ask yourself in order to make that incremental. Question number 1. What would you have to believe in order to increase the amount of time you spend in your high-gain activity? Remember, all actions begin with mindset. Mindsets drive behavior. What would you have to believe for it to have an impact? Would you have to believe that sales would go up? Would you have to believe that people would actually pay attention to your directive and encouragement? What would you have to believe in order to increase the amount of time you spend in high-gain activity? Then the second question is, what would you have to actually do? What changes would you make in order to let yourself spend more time in your high-gain activity? So to recap, what's your high-gain activity? The one thing that if you spend more time on it would have the most productive and profitable result. Then, what percentage of your time are you currently spending in it? Contrasted with what percentage of your time do you need to be spending in it? And then, what would you have to believe in order to increase the amount of time you spend in it? And then finally, what would you have to do? So, in the next 24 hours, I want you to engage in some specific behaviors that are going to moderately, incrementally increase the amount of time you spend in your high-gain activity. Try it. I guarantee you the results will grow bigger than you can possibly imagine.
Okay, so there's Favor on Demand as well. So anyway, just kind of an idea of what's out there. I think, a good place to start is just whatever you're interested in. The marketing technology is really good. There's a lot of options there. Online marketing, technology, targeted outreach. These are all like really interesting things that a lot of people have talked about. But it's just kind of fun, and they're short. They're 12 minutes, 11 minutes, 13 minutes. So none of them are long. So you could just get in and you could take 1 or 2 a week and then just kind of just learn a little more. And it's just like your mini, because these are all national speakers. I mean, they're like who you go to the big conferences and see. And you get to see them for free on your computer. So it's good value for you guys, and you should take advantage of it. So I wanted to kind of bring it to your attention and make sure that you are taking advantage of what you're already paying for. So,
Right.
Yeah. So anyone have any questions?
Can we look at the Generation X? Sorry, down the next one. Sorry. That just looks interesting. These are the people who don't want to be told what to do.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm just kidding.
Let's see. Wait, hold on. It's gonna.
Yeah.
Well, it's 12 minutes. I mean, whoever wants to sit and watch it, we can
Matthew
do it
Barrera
real
here
quick.
for the Learning Network. Let's
It's
talk
all
about
good
some
information, all of it.
Generation X. Generation X is a fairly new segment of our society, and they like to buy and sell real estate in unique ways. So how can you modify your strategies and tools to maximize your opportunity to work with Gen X. Let's take a look. If we want to analyze our careers with Gen X, we want to talk a little bit about their
You guys hear well?
So first we'll ask ourselves, who is Generation X demographically? Then we'll ask, how did they grow up? How do they work? How do they live? How do they play? And most of all, how do they want to engage the real estate industry? We want to specifically focus in on how they use information resources in all these aspects of their lives. Then we'll focus on the biggest challenge to traditionally conducted real estate practices with Gen X and give you a few ideas for working more effectively with this very important bridge demographic. Remember that Gen X is a very large segment of move-up buyers, which makes them both sellers and buyers. And so they are a great opportunity of growth for the real estate industry. Let's ask ourselves, who is Generation X? Well, to begin with, Gen X is roughly between the ages of 35 and 45 years old today. Now, I say roughly because you can bring in a little less and you can push it out a little bit more. However, compared to other generations in our society, Gen X is fairly narrowly defined, so not quite as large as baby boomers, who range from roughly 45 to 65, and not quite as large as Gen Yers, who are ranging 20 to 35, so a little bit smaller range of demographic. Now, that still leaves about 40 million Gen Xers in the United States, and obviously significant population and significant positioning in the real estate market. Now, if we go back a little bit after about how Gen X grew up, these are the kids that we once called the latchkey generation. Mostly the kids who were pretty much in charge of their lives after school because one or more parents was working full time. And unlike previous generations, the boomers, these kids did not have grandparents or other relatives at home at the time. So very early on in their lives, they were highly independent. And independence is very important to Generation X. That independence also fed into a high degree of competitiveness. So remember that Gen X grew up during a time when we had a lot of competition in our general society. We talked about economic competition, there was military competition between the East and the West, and then just television entertainment was built around competition.
I don't believe in participation trophies now. It drives me nuts.
So highly independent and competitive will fuel this generation's view of the world. Now, most interesting from a technology and information standpoint is that this generation grew up analog, which means that they had records, they read books, but today they now live fully digital. So they made the transition, and in many cases, they were very excited about the transition into new technology. Science fiction was extraordinarily popular and important to this generation, and they certainly were looking forward to the day when technology would make their lives better. They also grew up at a time when there was additional access to information, unlike any other generation before it. Here's a simple example. Rather than having to go to a librarian in the library to get access to a book, this generation was the first generation to be able to look up the book number on their own and go walk into the stacks and pull the book down for themselves. So this is just an example of how information became much closer to this generation, and it fed into a variety of other areas, from consumer reports, giving them more information and behind-the-scenes information that other adults didn't have before them, to the internet, of course, which made vast quantities of information available to them at their fingertips. And last but not least, when we ask ourselves who is Gen X, I want you to remember this. According to the U.S. Census, this is the highest educated citizen in all of record keeping for the United States. This generation has not only had better and higher quality formal education growing up, but they have gone on to earn more college degrees, post-college degrees, and certificate degrees than any generation before it. So very smart, very competitive, very independent, and certainly very facile, comfortable with technology. Now let's talk about a few great moments in their history, because we'll help you understand a little bit of how they come to the real estate market, because they are used to the sense of crises. This generation lived through the oil crisis, they lived through the Iran hostage crisis, they lived through Chernobyl, they lived through Black Monday, they lived through the transformation of the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, a lot of transitions and crises all of the time with this generation, and they are used to being in those moments. They also went through other kinds of transitions, for example, from typewriters to home computers, from certain types of ways that we define play to playing over video games, from television that was broadcast over the air to cable television and obviously the internet as well. Transitional is really one of the most important phrases or words to think of when you're thinking about Gen X, but also crisis as well. To them, their life has been built around a series of very important crises. They are also known as the MTV generation, which is a very interesting play, if you will, on how they like to entertain. This generation obviously consumed television at a massive increased rate, even than the generation before it, which went from no TV to television. This generation obviously drove the fact that now our televisions have more than 500 channels on them, and that's true even of our radios, satellite radio with more than 500 channels. And just to go last but not least back to some transitions, the dot-com bubble and the dot-com bust, and now the housing bubble and the housing bust. So when you think about Gen X, always in transition, flux, major crises, moments, big issues, big transformations, always forefront on their minds. Now, let's continue to look at this from a certain lens, and that is the lens of information access. One of the neat things about Generation X, as we've already mentioned, is that they didn't start out using all this technology, but they were very excited for it, and they are very much living the digital life today. Technology transformation is just similar to social transformation that they lived through. So from records to CDs, but then they didn't stop CDs to MP3s. From video gaming on a video game console to now playing video games over the web with thousands or millions of other people joining the game simultaneously. They love to push the envelope and transform. Now, we also see a mentality of information being very normal with Gen Xers. You know, we've mentioned Consumer Reports, but let's go a little bit further and ask ourselves, why do places like WebMD exist online? Well, this is because additional access to information and behind-the-scenes information like Consumer Reports drove Gen Xers to ask for things like WebMD, where gatekeepers were no longer in the key position of holding the information. They want access to everything, and they don't want anyone standing in their way. And that is very, very important to understand when they visit your website, when they ask for help. They want access to information, and they don't want to have to go through registrations, permissions, or even old legacy processes, which sometimes are very frustrating to them. So anytime you're acting as a librarian, a gatekeeper, if there are blockers in the transaction, whether they are banks, appraisers, inspectors, or even just the other side of the deal, Gen X will become very, very frustrated, and it's something to keep in mind when you're managing their emotions as well as their expectations. Now, digging deep into how this impacts real estate, I want to just point out that access to information is critical, but also access to people at the same time. Gen X is one of the first generations that really created the need for speed, and especially in communication. So Gen X does not leave voicemails. They do not write letters and wait for these things to be returned. They look for instant access, but they also look for instant response as well. This makes them perhaps a little bit more interested in facts rather than emotions, a little bit less interested in chit-chat, and a little bit more interested in getting right to the facts of a deal or a transaction. And if we factor in that competitive nature that we spoke about, it gives us a very special perspective on how they want to acquire real estate. Not only do they want to have all the information and the right people lined up to get it done, but they want to make sure that the ownership of it, the purchase of it, is very competitive. They do need to win. It is a big deal for them. They are very competitive and comparative to their peers. And so this is very important to them. One interesting statistic, during the last 10 years, Generation X purchased more than half of all new construction. That tells us something about the kinds of homes they want to live in, because they can have the home the way they want it, with the latest, the greatest, the highest tech, but also new construction is certainly going to stack up very nicely against their peers who might otherwise not have done that. We do want to look at, obviously, digital being incorporated into everything, not just the house they're looking for, but the way in which they do their transaction. Getting forms online should be as natural as them logging into their bank and doing their banking. And lastly, as we said, anybody who's blocking the deal, any process that's blocking the deal, is something to be concerned about. Now, let's quickly talk about a few strategies to make this easy for you to work with Gen X. Number one, mobility tools are absolutely critical. Gen X is mobile. This is the smartphone generation, the iPad generation, the laptop generation. They basically said, let's make sure information is with us all the time, everywhere we go. They were very excited about it. Remember, let's just go back a little bit and say, this is the generation that stopped playing records on a record player and started putting them on their Walkman so that the music was with them wherever they went. So I want you to consider all the mobility tools and literally must-haves when working with this generation. iPads, smartphones.
I was just thinking, old
digital
phones, did I?
cameras, these are
No.
absolute must-have with you all the
Yes.
time.
I'm
When
sure
they go to
whatever
your
the
website,
Walkman did, this
they
can do.
absolutely must have consent,
Yes.
and of course,
And then
that they have everything in one spot with deep
You can turn
content.
on your
Anytime they
remote.
see information
Did you have a CD
unavailable or an empty
growing up?
field
Like,
or a partial
once upon a
report,
time,
they are immediately
there's
turned
this
off
little carry
because they're
where you see
used to
the
websites
headphone.
giving them more than they anticipated
Bumping?
behind the scenes
Yeah.
information, sort of the secret view of the content. And so your website is going to need to really be able to deliver the goods with depth, not just surface information, and then ask them to contact you. You will need to also consider your sales strategy and your relationship strategy, whereas with baby boomers, they were very happy to deal with someone who would take over for them, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant who would, do it all for them. This generation wants control. They want to be in charge of the process with you advising and assisting, so you're going to need to be comfortable with letting them take more control. And one of your great jobs will be able to eliminate or minimize things that we've always done this way, those legacy processes. They're not looking for a family friend, they're looking for a trusted advisor. So those are some of the ideas in which you can maximize the opportunity of Gen X. They're a great segment of the population. They are strategically positioned right now to both sell and buy, to move up. They're entering their prime earning years. They do have some really great personality traits that you're able to, leverage your strategies and your technologies to make the transaction more effective for them. And with a little adjustment and a little technology, you'll be able to be very effective with Generation X. So with these ideas on selling to Gen X, I'm Matthew Ferrara. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, he's good. So we won't take the test on this one, we'll just exit it, so we can move on. I have an appointment at 3 o'clock I've got to get to, so I'm gonna sneak out real quick. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope that it was helpful and you will go back into the Institute and do more and learn more, because it's really good information.
Thank you.
It's
No.
here for you.
I came up with such a better question.
You did?
Yeah.
What was it?
How do you become the expert?
Ooh, that is a good question.
How do you label yourself an expert?
Can't ask it now. You missed your opportunity.
Yeah. But it would have segued perfectly into this. Ugh.
True.
Education. That's okay. That's next week's question.